One of the easiest activities to do is to become aware of when you do not fixate. Another way of saying this is become aware of the silence between the notes. So if you have a chain of thought and you're bouncing between thoughts, and all of a sudden you notice that space when there's no thought between two thoughts. It's like the silence between the notes, and then if you can focus your attention on the silence between the notes, when there's no fixation, when there's nothing grasping, this is typically what is called becoming aware of awareness, or becoming aware of pure consciousness, when it's bare and fundamentally unfixated, when it's non-modulated. It's like the empty screen when there's not an application that's on it, when you're not browsing the internet. It's just the powered off screen without a modulation. And so if you become aware of that space between the notes, if you become aware of how you can perpetually practice like a muscle, train your ability to break the chain of thoughts and then land on this empty spaciousness, like the silence between the notes, you'll feel a feeling of being unblocked. You'll feel a feeling of emptiness. You'll feel freedom. You'll feel peace. You'll feel a non-identification. And typically the breath is used as the tool that helps you remember this. So like right now, freedom. Just not jumping between thoughts, and rather just feeling that space of freedom, of silence, of emptiness, and then becoming more accustomed to tapping into that space. Because you'll notice that your conditioned responses dissolve, so that you won't be so habitually overlooking consciousness or awareness and be focused on the attributes or the thought clouds or the beliefs or the emotions, but instead you'll be focused on awareness itself, or consciousness, or beingness itself, I amness itself, and that feeling will expand outward more and more to encompass more people, more interactions, the whole planet, the whole universe. You'll slowly merge more and more with that, and thoughts and conditioned responses will have less control over you. Your awareness is becoming less fixated. You're perpetually breaking the chain of thinking, of emotion, of behavior, of pattern that is causing you to suffer, because you want to force your point of view into a conversation, or you're incessantly jumping between things that you have to do. And this is where the Buddha field of compassion opens up, because when you end up decentralizing your identity to the entire cosmos, the only thing that's left is to feel this compassion for the rest of life, to awaken to not suffering, to awaken to harmony, to happiness, to joy, to peace, to abundance and flourishing. And so the amount that you decrease your conditioned responses is proportionately equal to the amount of radiant compassion that you emit. And another way to say this is the Neti-Neti method of not this, not that, where you stay in a perpetual state of not being grasped by the attributes, You become ungraspable. So even when something does arise, that you just watch it disappear without becoming grasped by it and spending a minute or 2 minutes or ruminating in that thought pattern incessantly. Or when somebody says something, whether a compliment or an insult or something that you have to do or something that you didn't do, that you'll watch that arise and then dissolve into emptiness, and then you'll come from a place of that merged state with the God Son, the universal beingness. So then you don't respond to the stimuli from your conditioning, but you respond to it from a place of love and wisdom, compassion, which is the real intelligence. So the more that you become ungrasped by attributes, the more that you perpetually feel disidentified with the dance that is occurring with thoughts and beliefs and emotions and separate people talking to other separate people, but you abide more and more in the truth of the universal I amness, the God state, where your awareness is unfixed, but it's just relaxed. And you've decentralized your identity from the contracted subconscious conditioning frameworks that triggers come in and it pinballs around between these conditioning frameworks, to now when the trigger comes in, it just dissolves into that black hole of emptiness, because you are just radiating out then that God state instead of the state of separate, conditioned, contracted identity. So you become more and more sovereign. You become more and more radiant of the God state. You become less and less emitting out an energy of separation and conditioning, and fixating your awareness on the attributes that are constantly grasping you as emotions and thoughts and beliefs. So you're continuously breaking the chain of thinking and relaxing into the indescribable non-tension of the ease of being. And you're catching yourself faster and faster in these chains of thinking and shattering it into a relaxed, non-tense state of just being. And so this has been called in Dzogchen several times as a Samadhi bell. So it's like a dong, where you go from a place of fixated awareness and you catch yourself, dong, and you feel this non-dual awareness. You feel that samadhi, that meditative consciousness, taking the seat as the bell rings, and you feel indescribable peace and joy and ease. And you're not clinging onto that samadhi bell, and you're not averting the fixations on thoughts. Rather, you're just becoming aware to the process of what is happening naturally in evolution. So you're becoming more aware of reality as it is, where you can now have a visual juxtaposition between when you're in a chain of thought clouds versus when you recognize the silence between the notes and then you relax into that non-tense state of being. And that's what feels like that bell of ease. Dong. And then from there you feel that Godson state where everything is one intelligence at play with itself, and you come from there instead of from the webs of conditioning that are buried in the subconscious that we're not aware of. So you're gaining more will, you're unfreezing your will, you're gaining more sovereignty. You're perpetually becoming less and less fixated on attributes. You're becoming less grasped, clinging and craving and averting. You're becoming more and more equanimous, more peaceful, more joyful, and then you're radiating that out. Your nature of being unblocked will then help other people become unblocked, because they'll notice that why are you not trying to shove your point of view into the conversation? They'll just notice that you're just there as that Godson radiating presence of love and wisdom, and they themselves will become less blocked. They themselves will see what it's like to not force their perspective into the conversation, but rather to just relax. And so, in a sense, you're automatically doing yoga for other people as well. Yoga meaning union with God, as they become less and less blocked from that third chakra to that fourth chakra, where they're open more to that green energy of love at the heart center. And they'll feel more of the Buddha field of compassion opening up. They'll feel more of their conditioned responses dissolving. And it's all based on their own visualization of the difference between being caught in the egoic separation, fixated, grasping state versus being in the relaxed, empty, non-tense, peaceful, joyful, I am state. And another way to practice becoming aware of awareness, or the silence between the notes, is to play the know the knower game. And so in this case, what I'll share is I'll share an exercise. So I've brought this up on the show before, where if you're using analogies, you can become more experientially wise with direct knowledge of what we're talking about. So if you've never really become that aware of awareness or that aware of consciousness, and you don't really necessarily understand what it means to become aware of something that's formless, then what I would do is I would start with these ping pong balls. As we talk about knowing the knower, what does it mean to become aware of the witness or that which is observing reality? Well, the eyeballs are a really good way to start. So you can take this ping pong ball analogy and you can visualize these ping pong balls in the place of your eyeballs. And so you visualize these ping pong balls in the place of your eyeballs. And then what you do is you're trying to become aware of the fact that you're aware. You're trying to become aware of the fact that you're conscious more and more via direct experience. So can you become aware that you have these eyeballs and that you're literally able to see? How profound is it that you're able to see? How profound is it that you have this capacity to know, that you have this power to know? And so when you become more and more intimately connected with this, again, formless power to know, you become more and more directly experientially aware of awareness. So this is a good way to sort of move yourself from focusing on all of the objects and perceptions and sensations and beliefs and emotions and the chain of thinking to becoming aware of the formless state of just pure, bare, empty consciousness itself. Pure, bare, empty awareness that is unfixated. So it's not fixating on things. It's not being grasped by attributes, but instead it's just relaxing as its very formless nature. Peacefully, joyfully. And so you can use analogies like this, because when was the last time in your life that you ever really became aware of the profundity of your eyeballs and the profundity of the power to know? Very rarely, if ever. And so this is a good way to draw your attention away from the clouds of thinking, emotions, and objects towards the very power to know, towards consciousness or awareness when it's not fixated. So use analogies like these and help your friends, family, kids use analogies like these to become more and more aware of the power to know. And so another way of viewing this power of unfixated awareness is to recognize that what's happening is that the mind, which is perpetually fixating, it's perpetually grasping on these attributes, is exactly what is hiding you from uniting with the kingdom of God, infinity, that is located right here and now. The absolute is what you are, but the mind is hiding the absolute. The mind is hiding the kingdom of God. The mind is hiding your nature as indescribable absolute infinity. And so, most simply put, you have the state of mind, which is very much like an animal state. It's like a scripted limbic state. So the mind is like an animal, scripted, limbic, primal state of being, where you're perpetually fixating, you're perpetually grasping. And then you have the state of God realization, which is typically when you become aware of the formless kingdom, which is awareness or consciousness or love. And then you recognize that there are two sides to the same coin that are beyond the power to know, which is absolute nothingness and absolute infinity. And you become more and more comfortable with knowing yourself after 10 trillion years will be absolutely traceless, at the same time as knowing that this manifestation is just one expression of infinite possibility, which is your truest nature. And then you transcend all of those levels into just this most natural state of just indescribability, because you've actually become united with the essence of what it means to truly be alive. To be alive while truly knowing what it means to be alive. Because you can be alive as a separate, egoic, finite creature on a rock, or you can be alive knowing yourself as the indescribable, absolute, infinite intelligence that is at play with itself via these creations. And so this is it, guys. It really breaks down this simply. Just shatter that chain of thinking. Silence between the notes. Unfixated awareness. Feeling more empty, unblocked, unidentified. All your conditioned responses slowly dissolve. The Buddha field of compassion opens up. You're being less and less grasped by attributes. You're becoming more and more aware of the knower itself, of this God-realized state, and just recognizing that the mind is what has been hiding you from infinity. It's been hiding you from the pure essence of all possibility, which is the most essential, fundamental aspect to the nature of reality. Beautiful. So practice this process of knowing the knower. Practice this process of knowing the silence between the chains of thought. Practice this process of shattering the chains of thought. Practice this process of that beautiful Samadhi bell. Dung. Non-dual awareness. Non-grasped. Non-fixated. Just empty. Just beautifully unidentified, just helping feel that Buddha compassion nature that then emanates outward like the sunlight in service, pure service. I hope this was helpful for you. I would love for you to leave a comment below with where you're at in the process. Like the video if it brought you value, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also share the video with people that you feel like this would be impactful for. And that's all. Infinite love. Thank you. Be free, my friends. Be free.